Yes, indeedy, folks. It's the Beer Drinker's Guide to the Great Wahoo. October 3rd, 2008. A beautiful sunrise in Burley, Idaho. The promise of a perfect day to go drive what has been called a necklace around the Albion Mountains. Here's a map that shows a little easier an illustration of what we're going to be adventuring. And right where the jewel is, hanging right at the bottom of the necklace, is this hillside of boulders. This hillside we know as the City of Rocks. Established as a state park in 1957, the site was greatly expanded in 1964 when it was designated a National Historic Landmark and came under the jurisdiction of the National Park Service. From 1964 until 1996, the National Park Service and the Idaho Department of Parks and Recreation worked together to manage this area. In 1996, on-site management of the area was handed over to the Idaho Department of Parks and Recreation, with both the federal government and the state government contributing to maintaining the area. Today, the area encompasses 14,407 acres in a 22-mile boundary. It is visited by over 80,000 visitors every year. But, as any person who creates jewelry will tell you, the jewel at the end of the necklace is just the small part of the necklace. It might be what inspires the rest of the necklace, but the rest of the necklace is indeed where the fun of creating the design is. So let's look at Highway 77 from Declo down to Albion, and then down through Elba and Almo. From Burley, we take the Freeway 84 east until just after we cross the Snake River. At exit 216, we turn south and head toward Declo. Declo is a lovely one-crossing town that includes this beautiful, beautiful old, what I presume was probably a bank in its day. I know Eagle has a bank that looks just like this, a fine farming community structure. After visiting beautiful downtown Declo, we head south again, down toward Albion. Still in the fertile Snake River Plain, we drive through miles of sugar beets. As we begin to approach the Albion mountain range to the south, we see the lovely little town of Albion. One thing I did not expect to find was a large complex of abandoned buildings. This complex was the Albion Normal School. The second time the Idaho legislature met, it was decided that Albion is where the state school for teaching educators would be located. With that decision having been made in March of 1893, the locals donated 5 acres and began building this building. On September 11th, 1894, the campus opened to its first students. Over the years, the campus expanded, and in 1947, the campus was renamed the Southern Idaho College of Education. The campus was closed in 1951. During those 57 years of educating teachers, there were 6,500 people graduated from this institution. Many of them had distinguished careers, including Terrell Bell, who became Secretary of Education under the Reagan administration. The campus sat empty for 7 years until 1958, when it was opened as the Magic Valley Christian College. It functioned for 11 years and closed in 1969. From 1969 until the year 2007, the campus was owned by the city of Albion. The city converted the original building into a museum of the area, and they have done what they can to maintain the rest of the campus. Eventually, the city council decided that they needed to find a more positive use for these buildings. In the state of Idaho, a governmental organization cannot get rid of property without first offering it to the public by auction. In early 2007, the city of Albion put out notice of an auction for this campus. They received interest from as far away as Europe. Finally, the big day arrived, June 4th, 2007. And what a big day it was. About 100 people showed up. They were entertained by Western singer Ernie Seitz, who did some yodeling and sang some cowboy songs. But it was when he threw a 60-foot lasso that the crowd went wild. Of the 100 people attending the event, there were only 2 real bidders. It only took 5 minutes for the bid to go from $100,000 to $360,000, and there it stalled. The city council stopped the auction for a little powwow. They did have other people who had been talking about buying the site, and according to Idaho law, once you have had an auction, if you have a better opportunity somewhere else, you can not settle with the auctioneers and instead settle with the outside negotiations. The city council had a little powwow with the people who were doing the bidding, and after the bidding reopened, it took about 10 minutes to raise the bid up to $445,000. After there were no more bids, the city council again decided to have a chat. People had shown an interest in turning the site into an RV park, and they had shown an interest in turning it into a Christian college. However, one of the teams that was bidding on the property was interested in preserving and restoring the property. The hearts of everybody in Albion wanted these folks to win the bid. So, once again, the bidding was opened up. After what has been described as a drawn-out battle, the final price reached $8,901,000. The winning bidders were Troy, Kent, and Jared Mortensen, and Jared Affleck of Boise, Meridian, and Pocatello. Their intent is to restore and preserve this beautiful historic campus. The name for their enterprise is Campus Grove. Within a year of having acquired the campus, they have already reconditioned Miller Hall. Miller Hall now has 15 modern rooms that can sleep over 80 people. It includes modern bathroom facilities, a modern kitchen, mutual areas, and a game area, as well as modern internet access. Apparently, the old campus has a reputation as the Northwest's largest haunted house. This fall, in 2008, the folks at Campus Grove took good advantage of this reputation. On weekends all through October, they had tours of the largest haunted house in the Northwest. It was very scary. It is good to see this campus being cared for and making a comeback. But folks, the old Albion Normal School is not the only story this little town has to tell. This lovely little park sits where the old Cassia County Jail used to sit. The historic plaque in front of the park tells us about Diamond Field Jack. The story on the plaque, which is put out by the Idaho Scenic Byways Committee, tells the story so well that I'm just going to read it to you. The story comes from when the sheep and cattle wars were being fought in Idaho during the 1890s. The plaque reads, "A notorious gunman, Jackson Lee Davis, who was better known as Diamond Field Jack, was hired by the Sparks Harrell Cattle Company to restrict sheep herders from crossing to the west side of Goose Creek. Due to his reputation and a previous non-fatal shooting, Davis was arrested for the murder of 2 sheep herders and became the pawn in a battle between cattlemen and sheep herders, Mormons and non-Mormons, and Democrats and Republicans." The sensational trial brought prominent attorneys from the highest rank. William E. Borah, who later became an Idaho senator, served as the main prosecutor. Diamond Field Jack was defended by James Hawley, a prominent criminal lawyer from Boise who later became governor of Idaho, and Kirkland I. Perky, one-time law partner of William Jennings Bryan. Based on circumstantial evidence, Jack Davis was convicted of murder in February of 1896 and sentenced to be hanged. As Diamond Field Jack awaited execution, 2 cattlemen confessed to the murders. After nearly 7 years in prison and several stays of execution, the State Board of Pardons finally exonerated Diamond Field Jack. Jack Davis moved to Nevada, where he became a successful mine operator in the towns of Tonopah and Goldfield. The once notorious gunman faded into the shadows when, in 1949, Diamond Field Jack died after being hit by a taxi in Las Vegas. Another account of Albion comes from the memories of a gentleman who lived there in 1864. Albion was very early on a wagon route that supplied the mines north of what we now call Mountain Home. Albion was at the northern end of what was called Marsh Valley on Marsh Creek. At the time, of course, there was no irrigation on the Snake River Plain. So all of the Snake River area, other than right along the river itself, was a desert. From 1864, some 32 years before Diamond Field Jack's conviction, this gentleman remembered, quote, "Albion was the center of the universe. There was no Twin Falls, no Burley, no Rupert, just wasteland beyond Albion." Shortly after leaving Albion, Highway 77 takes a turn toward the west. It is along this stretch of road that the little road takes off up into the Albion Mountains and to the Palmerel ski hill. Palmerel is a true mom-and-pop operation. It's at 8,000 feet. They have 24 slopes, one triple chair, one double chair, and a new 450-foot long magic carpet for boarders to ride. It particularly caters to families with small children. The small children and the limited terrain aside, Pomerel is on the same snow pattern as the mountains just outside of Salt Lake City. Every year it gets lots and lots of powder snow. When Highway 77 finally turns to the east to go to Malta, we turn to the west to go to Elba and Almo on the Elba-Almo Road. There's a fun patch which lacks stripes or anything else except patches that goes down past Elba and eventually becomes another improved highway. Eventually, we come over a small hill and begin the long drive down into Almo. About as soon as we come into this valley, in fact, you can see the sign for it in this photo, we come to an area that commemorates the California Trail. One of the routes to California left the Oregon Trail in eastern Idaho, followed the Raft River to this point, and then on past the City of Rocks. Here is a view from the historic site, looking back toward where we have just come over the hill. A view looking at the country north of the historic site. Looking to the west from the historic site, we get a glimpse of the City of Rocks off in the distance. Back on the road, we head toward the west for a little while before we turn to the south and begin to approach beautiful downtown Almo. The Tracy General Store is one of the big features in Almo. Gas, groceries, hardware, the post office, pretty well anything you're looking for can be found right here. I haven't been able to find the resource lately. However, when I was researching this story, I'm pretty sure that it was this store that I read was the oldest continuously functioning general store in the state of Idaho. It has been open since sometime in the middle to late 1800s. Almo is rather a charming little town and has several nice structures in it. The town boasts of having an inn and a fine steakhouse. Just south of Almo, you can turn to the left to Durfee Hot Springs. If, instead of turning left to Durfee Hot Springs, you turn to the right, you find yourself approaching a dirt road that leads to the City of Rocks. And we'll go driving that dirt road, and we'll go exploring that jewel of the City of Rocks. The next time we go adventuring on the necklace around the Albions. A young man was talking with his friend one day. He told his friend, "I went to the doctor yesterday and got some really disturbing news. The doc told me I'll be dead in a week if I don't give up sex." "Oh my gosh," his buddy said. "Why is that?" The young man replied, "Because he found out I've been playing around with his wife." And that's another episode of the Beer Drinker's Guide to the Great Wahoo. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you next week. And in the meantime, keep celebrating the Great Wahoo.